Hello everybody, it's me, Player Negative, and today I'm going to be explaining my character and why I designed it. Now, I'm sorry that I have been uploading lately because I've been busy with a lot of things, specifically helping with family matters, dealing with cleaning my house and my grandparents' house, considering it's flooded with a lot of clutter. But so far, I'm back, I'm ready to work on some stuff, and today I'm going to be explaining a broad thing about my avatar, its design, and how it came to be. And trust me, there's a lot I got to explain because some people need it. And by some people, I mean a close friend of mine on this platform. Because at the same time, I've been reaching out to a YouTuber at the same level that I am, named Tails98303, who does a lot of cool synthesized music, and since we both use Dolphin Emulator, I've basically been talking to him a lot. And he's been a really good guy. I've had some good laughs with him and a pretty nice enjoyment with it, and why Nintendo's looming threat of disabling the emulator still stands, and a lot of people who feel for Nintendo are still criticizing people like me and him. It's been a really nice time. Not gonna lie, I've been at it with him in some conversations, and I've been doing commissions with him and thanking him for a few things. And while Nintendo is being litigious and threatening people who mod the games or emulate them to breaking their consoles, me and him, we've just been fine. We've been fine, but an issue arose when he tried posting an interesting group picture out of pixel art instead of using AI like he did for some of his videos, which I tried to explain to him that he should walk away from that. And while he did try to do a good job, there was clearly an issue. Just as you can see, here's his channel. Similar to me, we're both on a very low level of subscribers and only 2 digits instead of 1,000 like most people. And he does a pretty good job. He's been trying out new things. He mainly does music and did a few soundtracks for animations, some really nice stuff here. And not really any issues here with what he's been doing. He's been doing a good job. Clearly he's got a thing for sports cars though, which I think is cool and I completely respect that. I kind of like sports cars too. But one thing that bothered me was this was his attempt at using pixel art to try to create my character. Now, he was clearly using a random type of software. He may or may not have been using AI, evidenced by the little smudge or slither pieces here. And I'm not trying to be rude with him, but so far, it's a good picture, but he clearly got my character's design a little bit off, mainly the head. The shirt, the gloves, he got that right, but I guess I just need to explain why my avatar looks the way it is so people don't make this mistake. So, yeah. So starting off, I drew my avatar on paper, and I kind of wanted it to look like something a little more interesting and progressive. You see, before I used this, my character used to look like a generic white guy with red hair and green clothing, which wasn't wrong, but it was based off a much younger version of myself, and as I got older, I kind of felt insecure about using it. So I decided to change it to something based off a sense of progression I had after a few years had passed, and I've actually grown in a few areas. But I couldn't animate, so I tried using a limbless character, which is how the stop-motion puppet you've seen in a few of my videos was created. And I've made a few animations with him, a few simplistic ones, because I don't try to be too complex with it, or I don't have the limited resources, but yeah. I was inspired to make this channel by a close friend of mine you know as Zippy or Zippimation, and since his character reminded me of Sonic in both the ways it moved and fights, I tried to make my character have some level of similarity to Mario to like rival him or work with him in a few ways, as like another guy out there who exists as one of the newer YouTubers. And why I don't have the tools or resources to animate, I tried my best to make some interesting designs. Going in, I knew exactly what I wanted it to look like, but it was hard to convey in animation. Which is why I sometimes use the limbless counterpart for most of my animations, because as a way to easier to animate, and because stop motion is a medium that I've understood how to use to some degree. I'm not the best at it, and as you can see here, I'm still trying in a few areas, but I'm at least manageable with it in the way that I can animate with. Here's an attempt at an upscale model version of my avatar from the shorter pixel sprites you're used to. The jacket was based off newer fashion sense I had growing up, and the shorts were replaced with blue sweatpants based off design. I wear leather gray shoes in some of my videos, which is where these came from. And the rest of the design was meant to be a little bit plain, but also look a little interesting. Like, the idea was to create a character who looked interesting, but also had a sense of being a little more grounded in reality. As, like, a guy who wears basic clothing and isn't wearing, like, some sort of massive suit of armor, or isn't a random Sonic recolor or something like that. The point was to make a character who was simple, but effective. As for the color palette of the jacket, that inspiration comes from a particular character you may know on the YouTube platform. SMG3. I don't know why, I just like anti-heroes a lot. And just his design, even though it has changed from being a recolor version of Mario, I just like it. The Roman numerals on his gloves, the black skull insignia where the Mario M should be, the little chip in the side of his hat rim, it just fits really well. Not to mention, he has an obsession with bombs that was just generally lovable, and seeing this guy fight was just pretty impressive in my opinion. Cool animation done with source film, well done character, just perfect. Now, the hands and the hat are a different story that I'll have to explain. The hat has the shorter answer, and it's inspired by one of my favorite Mario games. Super Mario Bros. 3. It's one of my favorite 2D Mario games. I grew up with it while everyone else was playing Call of Duty and Halo back in the early 2000s. And generally, the Tanuki suit is my favorite power-up and is one of the best power-ups. Now, originally in lower sprite versions like what you see right here, I was going to add the Tanuki tail to it, but my brother kept on berating me saying it looks too much like a furry, so I removed it. And so far, nothing bad has come from it, and I'm okay with it. And plus, it gave it an distinguishing look that looks a lot different from most characters who have Mario-inspired avatars. The hat itself has even shifted, looking less like a Mario cap and more like a cap you would see on a farm boy or a newspaper boy, or characters similar to the next character who inspired a certain element of the design. Now, taking one look at my avatar, you're probably thinking, for those of you who play platformers, that my character looks a whole lot like Astrobot. And you'd be right, but that's not where I got the inspiration for the faceplate. And the reason my character doesn't have a mouth is so I don't have to animate lip syncing, because, let's be real, who actually enjoys doing that? The design for the faceplate came from a certain character you may know, made by Glitch Productions, and from one of the various animation series he's did. His design was pretty simple, and I generally liked how the eyes were just screens on a monitor, which led to me taking a lot from the design. And you can see I took a few elements from the character, like the hat and the face, and mainly the haircut, but so far most of the rest of the character design is original. So you can see that my character takes a lot of inspiration from popular characters in media, as well as a few of my own experiences with video games and certain tropes with those video games, which is why I designed the character to have a bit of a parody sense to their design. Next up are the hands, which, if you haven't seen older designs of my character in certain sketches back in my older videos, you probably would know they're arm cannons. Since I didn't want to throw fireballs like Mario, I thought using arm cannons would be a cool parody idea. Now, when I say arm cannon, your mind probably jumps to characters like Iron Man, with using it like a basic projectile for long range, or characters like Mega Man, who use it as their most primary weapon. And since my character's a robot, you probably think that's what I'm going for. But actually, that's not the case. I was actually inspired by various characters such as the Cyborg from One Punch Man, as well as Ren from Into the Abyss. Now, unlike Iron Man and Mega Man, his arm cannons are not just a simple projectile, but rather more of a melee weapon. Here's a clip to bring up what I mean. Yeah, and why I haven't animated anything like that, I do plan on making something similar to that. And it's kind of why I made that more upscaled sprite and showed up a few of my sketches, because you don't normally see that with this normal looking sprite design I use in my other videos. Another inspiration for the characters was also the hands and helmets of Daft Punk, because I generally thought having a character with a more digital face that can express multiple things would be a really useful technique for animation. So in summary, the hat is inspired by Mario Bros. 3 and is trying to be in a parody sense. The purple color aesthetic is inspired by SMG3 and my liking to certain anti-heroes. The clothing is meant to be simple and effective, and so far I've been doing well with this character. Using them in almost every thumbnail, all my videos explaining various things like Steam, or just simple shorts with my expressions with some work of my friend. Of Sonic Adventure 2, but I've been having camera issues, so if you're wondering why Part 3 or Part 2 has been uploaded, it's because because my phone's been crashing, and honestly, I actually don't have the best resources to film or animate most of this stuff, which is why some of the stuff looks very cheap and poorly made. But despite that, I'm going to work with what I got and keep making a lot of videos, because I've been enjoying them, and I've made some pretty good progress with them, and I've generally enjoyed making some interesting stuff, getting my opinion out there, and just making some really nice stuff and reaching out with some interesting people. Whether it's talking with Tails9303 about Dolphin Emulator and playing Sonic Adventure 2, to discussing my issues with the Nintendo Switch 2 and people who still defend for it for some reason. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it explained more about this avatar and why I use it more often. See you later.